Welcome to the Brave Talkshow, the show for brave women craving the connection that comes with real conversations. We are four unique women coming together with different perspectives, passions, and experiences. Our goal is to foster healing and connection by making the uncomfortable comfortable. Let's be brave here.
Welcome to another episode of the Brave Talk Show. Bold topics, brave women, nothing is ever off the table. I'm Robin, and today I'm joined with my other co-hosts.
Brittany here.
Vanessa.
Teresa.
Oof, and we're talking about the richest, deepest space you could go when we talk about our father story. So today's episode is going to be talking about the father wound and the father role and how has it actually shaped us as women. So I'm going to lead with the question to ask you ladies. And we're all going to have to be vulnerable here because this can be hard things to talk about, or maybe it's a really joyous thing to talk about. We all have really different experiences. But I want to first just start. Basic question. Was your guys' father physically present, emotionally present, both, or neither? And how has that impacted you growing up?
I'm a child of two divorces. So my father was present in my early years. And then when I was about age 7 is when I stopped seeing him as much. Various reasons. My mom and him, kind of moved at different places. My dad ended up getting a job that basically gave him a day off on Monday and a day off on Thursday. And he was working like a midnight shift. So like the idea of being able to see his kids just wasn't possible. And so I didn't really see him after that. And I really only saw him like on summers when he would have his 2-week vacation that he would get from USPS, the United States Postal Service. And we would go to Lake Tahoe. And that was my relationship with my dad until I was about age 13 when I could see him once a month. And then I moved in with him when I was 18. So I would say for my dad, it was not very present. But when I did see him, he was sweet and kind and loving. And I have, wonderful memories from the times when I was with him. But where he really, really poured into me, and it was when I actually became an adult at 18 and moved in with him in college.
Okay. And we want to hear about that. Who else? Tell us about, was your dad physically present, emotionally, neither, both?
Yeah, my dad was both. My dad, I have a superhero as a dad. He still is my hero. 41 years later, he's wonderful. He worked a lot. He was a firefighter and a construction worker. Firefighters have schedules where, they work 24 hours on and then 24 hours off. And at least that's how it was, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And so on his days off, he would work construction. But my dad, like my parents, are still married. I grew up in a house with both of them, and my dad was always very, very wonderful. My dad would have what he called PPIs, personal private interviews with me, and he would just come in, and my dad and I could connect at a deeper level where we would have some really deep conversations, and he would be able to just pull down all my walls and be like, "How are you really?" And I couldn't keep things from him. And so then I'd end up crying and just like bearing my soul to him. And we'd come out and my mom would be like, "What do you guys do in there? Like, you always come out crying." And I'm like, "They're good tears. You just let me talk through all of my problems." And anyway, I have a really, really great dad.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Love that.
Well, for me, it's different. I was born in Haiti, adopted. My birth dad was very present. My mom was never married. I had an older brother. My dad had his own kids. So he was very present, always make sure go to school. He would always pick me up. He worked at the soccer stadium. So I would go hang out with him at the soccer stadium. He would, so he was pretty involved. And then I got adopted here in that relationship.
Wait, can you back up? Why, if you had a dad who was present there, why would you get adopted here?
So my dad and my mom weren't married. So I lived with my mom. But my dad was involved in the way of he'll come see me in the weekend. But then he had his own struggle of alcoholism and things like that. And then my mom passed away when I was 11. So I stayed with my aunt and my grandma, kind of the one that took care of me because my dad could never be able to take care of me.
Right.
And then the fact that I think at 11, I didn't want to get adopted, but my family's well, it's probably the best thing, probably a better life and things like that. So then we thought okay, we'll give it a try. But my dad was involved in a sense of okay, I'll help your mom pay for school because I went to private school in Haiti, like in nun school. So he's like, I'll help pay for that. Okay, yeah, I work at this stadium. You can come see me after school. Like, I'll pick you up and you can hang out with me for. So that would be time like I would hang out with him, like kind of things like that. But that was when my mom was alive because my mom was very like, you're going to like come get her. You're going to spend time with her. Like, that was like very important to her. But then after my mom died, there wasn't really much of a like I still talk to my dad, like he's in Haiti. We talk about once a month and we message. I send money to help him with his rent and medication, things like that. So kind of like a better life opportunity. I think my adoption story is more like better life here than a third world country where, but and then adopted here wasn't as great. I don't talk about it a lot, but it was just a lot of, and I don't think by the hand of my dad. I think, to be honest, in that home, my adopted home, I had a better relationship with the dad figure than the mom because it was just, she had her own struggle and the abuse came from her. And I think he kind of like tried to protect us as much as possible that he could. But then that would create like inner struggle within their marriage, right? So then he feels like he had to take a side, which is his wife's side. So even though when their abuse was very bad, like, we were not eating, like I think one of them, me was a little bit different because I was older, but then things would happen. She would wait till he comes home and be like, you need to punish them for this. So then he was kind of like the face of punishment for us, like even for my younger siblings. Like I remember once my sister, her and I were always doing like, we live in Tooele. We had like a 10-acre like farm and like we would be outside like working from sun up till sundown, but not their adopted kids. So that's part of the abuse, right? It would just be me and then I'm helping these little kids that were younger than me because they adopted 4 of us. And I have like this 3 other kids that I'm trying to put fence up for the cow. Like,
so their natural born children weren't forced to work.
No, just the 4 of us.
That is abuse.
Exactly. Yeah. So then like there was one time we were putting nails and one of the little youngest wanted to help, and then my sister was like, okay, hold the nails. And she accidentally like hit the natural born child in the hand. And then she was so mad. The mom was just like angry. And you guys are just going to stay outside. You're not going to get lunch because you did that. And then when the dad came home, she's like, she did that. So he's like, you need to punish her. You need to punish. And then he took the hammer himself and like hit her nail with it.
Oh my God.
And so that was kind of like his like, like he doesn't want to. Or there was one time like him, my mom and that, like I was like doing the dishes. Like they had dinner. Every time after they had dinner, like my job was to always clean after everybody and do the dishes while they go watch a movie or do something like that. And then I was like cleaning this honey from this plate and it was going down the drain and she like lost it. She's like, you cannot put honey down the drain. She's like in my face screaming like, honey does not go down the drain. And so the memory I remember of my dad being like, because me at this point, I'm 16 and I'm like starting to be like, this don't make sense. You yelling for no reason. My instinct is to like get mad because I don't understand why you yelling. And I think like I started to build a temper because of the stuff of the maltreatment that was happening. And I think my dad could sense like I was about to like lose it. And then he just came, he's just like, you just go upstairs. Like go upstairs, don't say nothing. And then he'll take me upstairs. He's like, she's being unreasonable. Like I can't say that to her, but you can't let her get you to there. So I remember those moments, but at the same time, I'm just like, I always tell, it's not like I like, after like I got married and my little sister came and lived with me at 18, she called me. She's like, the same thing's happening to me. Like I need to get out. I was like, yeah, come live with me. But then like we had a more opportunity to like meet after because they got a divorce and he got remarried and he wanted to sit and, kind of meet and talk. And I just remember we had that. And I was just like, I don't hate you. Like, and I think you tried the best that you could, but I just can't like continue to have a relationship where we move forward. It's just kind of like, I think you just be best that like, good luck in your journey and good luck on mine. But like, I don't hate you. On the other hand, my mama is a whole other story. But that's kind of like the relation that kind of is. But then my mom, when I was in Haiti, my dad, that's my dad. But then I think there's like, I have like kind of like a stepdad that also was amazing. And he was kind of like a father figure to me. So I feel like I've had like good example of like, and I always wanted like unconditional love, because I think like even though my dad wasn't right in a way with the relationship with my mom, but like his unconditional love for like his kids was something that I was just like, I want somebody that's just gonna love unconditionally, you know? So I think that's how that like relationship, but within my adoption, I'm like, I don't think there's anything that I took from my dad to be like, that was.
I know you.
I had a.
Whoa.
Go on.
I was going to say, I know that you've shared that story with us before, and every time I hear it, I'm like,
My heart breaks.
Holy
Oh,
cow,
thanks,
Vanessa!
thanks,
Holy
guys.
cow!
Yeah.
I can't believe that you guys were treated like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so my experience is interesting. I'm like kind of in the middle right now of processing some daddy issues, some people call. And so I don't know, I might just be real time processing with you guys listening, but I grew up with two parents. Obviously, they're still together. My dad was physically present. Like he came to all of our dance stuff, and he actually worked from home most of the time. So he had an office in our house, and he would lock the door from like 9 to 4 p.m. That was his work office, and we would get in big, huge trouble if we were loud or we knocked on the door or those type of things. But he was home with us, like he worked from home. So physically present, yes. I'm realizing emotionally present, no. I had a really good relationship with my dad growing up. I would actually probably say me and my dad were the closest. I was kind of like the golden child to him almost. And I'm the third out of, no, there's 5 of us. I'm the 4th out of 5. And my older siblings, when we got older into our teenage years and even young adulthood, just had so many awful things that they had to say about my dad, about him being aggressive and just kind of how they were raised. They didn't like it. And I always was so offended by that because I was like, I love dad. Like he was such a good dad to me. You must have gotten like a different version. And like me and my sister, we would always, take our dads back. And I'm sure as my parents had these 5 children, you learn, right? I am a much better parent than I was 12 years ago when I started. But it's interesting because growing up, I was the straight A student, the golden girl, never caused grief for my mom and dad, never snuck out, never missed anything. Honors roll, valedictorian. Like I was the good girl. And I felt that my relationship with my dad really was so close looking back now because I was always chasing his approval. And he always had to give it to me because I was doing all these awesome things. And some of my other siblings had different experiences. But the strange part of the story is 2 years ago, if you would have asked me, I'd have been like, oh my gosh, my dad's the most amazing person ever. We're so close. We're closer than anyone else. He loves more than everyone else. But there's been an interesting shift in our dynamic these last couple of years. After my divorce and after leaving Mormonism, I am not seen in the same light anymore. I'm not his golden child. He's very disappointed in me. It's interesting. Him and I actually don't have a relationship right now. And that's really sad to say, but honestly, I hope for something in the future. But he would be fine if he never talked to me again. And there was never like a big blow up or a big fight. The only moment I can see like where things shifted was about a year ago after I've come out of this horrific divorce and I'm learning who I am. And now I'm not the golden girl. I've broken every standard. I got divorced. I left the church. I've done all these things that would make my parents
proud.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not doing
proud,
them anymore. Yeah. And I've also learned now to not chase love. And when you divorce, you basically get to start learning a self-development program that a lot of people don't get until you go into some sort of crisis. It's just the truth. When you go through an incredibly difficult trial, you are forced to learn lessons that you weren't forced to learn when your life was comfortable and going well. And I started realizing that some of the things that I was chasing in men, my first husband and even partnerships after, were from my dad. And my dad was really aggressive. He did withhold love. He yelled a lot. He was scary and intimidating. But I never got in trouble because I followed all the rules. So there's a lot of similarities to my first husband. Very aggressive, very scary, kind of dictates with fear and governing. And completely emotionally unpresent. And so as I'm doing all this inner work and I even learn about the father wound, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was attracted to that marriage because it felt like home. That doesn't mean it was safe. That doesn't mean it was healthy. It wasn't. Clearly, I left. But it felt normal because that's the only relationship I had with the male, the father, daughter relationship. So now I've been deconstructing it. My dad and I are in a weird place. Like when we see each other, it's cordial. It's like, hi, dad, love you, whatever. But like, it is completely dead. There's no connection. And it's when I started standing up for myself. It's when I started standing up for my mom. It's now that I'm one of the most vocal and powerful women in my family, and I'm not going to take crap anymore. I've been through too much to accept X, Y, and Z, or to be told that, or to watch another woman in my family be treated like this. And he doesn't like that. And so he's had a few experiences where I've challenged him, and he's never been challenged before. He's also been the only man in our family because I have a brother, and he lives far away. He doesn't really come around. And then I have 4 sisters, and almost all of them have been divorced, like the whole thing. So there was never brother-in-laws. It was my dad, his 4 daughters, and then I was the only one married for almost that whole 10 years. And so my dad never had to get along with no one challenged my dad. My dad was the ruler of this family. And so that's not going to fly for me anymore. So now I have Dane, and him and Dane have gotten into a couple things where Dane's like, hey, yeah, don't talk to people like that. Or like, hey, that's not okay. Please don't treat Robin like that. And
let me guess, he doesn't like him because of that.
No, exactly. Yeah, he doesn't like him. And then he has said things like about that, like not liking him. And that's really hurt me deeply. But I know why. It's because for the first time, he's being called to level up or to stop these toxic behaviors. And so he's really put me at a hand's distance, which is hurtful. And I'm working through that. But I also just realized this weird family dynamic we have is also keeping me away. My other 3 sisters are now fully financially dependent on my dad. He buys their cars. They all live in the same house that he pays for. He still governs them as adults. If they want to get a new car, he's going to have to make sure it fits his budget. If they want to date other people and stay overnight and have a man come sleep in their house, not in his house. And they're 35-year-old women, right? And for me, I see the toxicity. I see the absolutely no. And I'm here. I also think he's bugged that I didn't need him through my divorce, that I never asked for money, that I live in my house, that I got through this. And I didn't need him. And he's very codependent with the other women in my family. They all need him because
that's how he gets
for something financially.
Control a little bit.
So he's really controlling, and he's a great human. I love him so much. I had a great childhood. But I am realizing it was because he was emotionally unavailable. There was some controlling and borderline abusive tactics, and now as a grown adult, I'm not willing to put up with that, and so that's put a big wedge through our relationship. So
you said boundaries, and the boundaries cannot be respected. So because of that, you in the outs.
Yeah, and boundaries are made for the people who don't like boundaries. So now that I have boundaries, it's really clear to see who doesn't like those. Yeah, and it's really clear to see the predators that were in my life. Yeah, because those are the people that aren't going to keep them. You know. So yeah, it's an interesting place to be. I'm not really sure what it'll look like in the next few years. I love my dad. He's an awesome human. He brings a lot of value to our family. But I am now a grown woman in a non-married relationship and making sure that my father wound is super healed so I don't attract that back in. Yeah. And that I don't keep chasing approval and love.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. It's a little deeper than you guys wanted. Sorry about that. I feel much better. Okay. So thanks for letting me get that off my chest.
That's why we're here. We're here for the deep. Yeah. I already went. My dad. Yeah. My dad is not perfect. He will be the first to admit that, but I have a very strong, wonderful dad. And I feel like the relationship that I have with him, I have a theory that if a daughter feels secure in her relationship with her father, she won't go out searching for love elsewhere.
I agree.
And that has to do with sex before marriage. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So I really believe that. And I felt that. And I've seen that with many other, young girls in their lives when they don't have a secure attachment to their dad, they go out and search for it somewhere else.
Yeah. And that was me, I mean, obviously with my dad not being physically present because of the divorce. And even though he was kind, seeing him only for 2 weeks a year and then only once a month. And even when it was once a month, it was just for a weekend, and it was my siblings that were with us. And, it'd be fun. We'd go to SeaWorld or we'd watch a movie or something like that. It's not like we got real deep, during that. And then my mom remarried when I was 8. And my stepdad, while he added a lot of financial stability to our home, he was a very controlling man. He had a temper, and I never felt safe with him. And because of that, I think between the combination of my biological dad not being present and my stepdad, while present physically, being verbally and spiritually and emotionally abusive, I did go seeking my father. I kind of look at it. I was trying to find my father in the attention of boys. And it never satisfied. No boy could ever fulfill that role. And I got hurt a lot along the way. And, I think even the effects of that are still something that I'm still having to work through today, even with like my father, while we had he played an incredible role when I graduated high school, and I had come to a place, I was really heartbroken over my first love. My first love and I had broken up, and I needed to get out of town. Everything reminded me of him. And so I couldn't, my mom and I were not getting along. My mom kind of played a role in that breakup. And so I was angry at her, and I was kind of self-destructive. And I had called my dad, I don't know he's like, come down and stay with me. So I stayed with him for 2 weeks. And, he helped me see where I needed to do some growth in some of my life, and some of the things I hadn't even been, no one took care of me. Like, I hadn't applied for colleges. I still didn't have a driver's license. I was graduating from high school, no driver's license, no job, not going to college. Like, I was a complete loser in many ways because I was so broken. And so he came in and helped pick up my pieces, and he said, move in with me. And he paid for my college. He got me set up okay, let's get you on this track. Why don't we work on you being a dental hygienist? I said, fine, I'll be a dental hygienist. So we went on a science track. He helped me get my driver's license. He bought me a car. He took care of so much of that. And my relationship with him really grew. And I feel like
that's your biological dad?
My biological. And here's the interesting thing. My mom and my dad divorced when I was 4. Oh, wow. And I moved in with him when I was 17. So that was 13 years of not being with my dad physically. So then I moved in at 17, and I was very close with him. And then when I was 30, he drowned to death. I had 13 years with my daddy. And I really feel like God gave me those 13 years to redeem the 13 years that I didn't have with him.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. And I think that shows like the importance of having like father figures in young girls' life, right? I think like we all want that, because I think it does makes a difference, because when we look at, we all have boys and girls, right? We see the relationship with the father and the daughter. Sometimes I love seeing my, Yahoshua Samaya, and the tenderness he has with her and the love that she has for her dad. And I think oh my gosh, because the love that he gives her, I hope she goes and finds somebody to know that that love, it can be beyond growth. So it's really beautiful to see, because me and my boys, it's different, because Samaya and I, we butt head. I'm pretty sure all us and our girls, right? We kind of have this we love them, but I think that relationship with the dad always seems to be something so tender. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's important. And I think today we're all about giving advice. So I guess the thing I would say, what advice would we give to, because now we all grown.
Wait, before we give advice, I'm really curious, because I think we all can agree that you pick your partner based off of your relationship with you and your dad.
Oh, we're going there.
So I want
I was
everyone,
is that where we're going?
Yeah, I mean, you and your dad as a young kid is going to influence the man you choose later on. So I want everyone to go around and tell us, find the awareness of maybe some of the similarities between your partner and your dad that maybe drew you in, because it's a scientific fact. Your dad probably has a lot of similar qualities, good and bad, to your partner now. Mm-hmm. Who wants to start? Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I kind of already started. So the negative side is I was drawn to a lot of aggression, loud voices, yelling, a lot of controlling, but a lot of peace when you performed. Mm-hmm. So everything was fine. I was championed, the best ever when I was just top of the line. So that really reflected in my marriage, when I was keeping quiet, keeping peaceful, serving him, doing all these things. There was no issues. But the second I toed out a line, there was aggression and yelling and different things like that. They actually have a lot in common. my former spouse and my dad. So that's mine. Who else wants to jump in? Good. You can be good and bad.
I think when I look at my dad now, especially when I talk to him, he's very like calm, and he doesn't really raise his voice. I remember as a child, like him and my mom they weren't married, but like when they would get together and talk, it's always like my mom was like loud, and he always just like was calm, collected, and very calm man. I don't know how, but he was just super calm. And then so when I look at Yahosh, like he's probably, like I say, I always said, Yahosh, I'm going to get to heaven because I'm holding onto Yahosh's legs. He's going to take me with him because he's just so great. Like he's good, and the good, like, I think I've said it before. I was trying to make him lie for me. Like I was like, just say I'm not here or something. He's like, no, I don't lie, And so it's just, there's good in him, and I see the good, and I'm always like, I want to be that good. Like, so I kind of see that. And
do you think that good was what you were raised with, or because you didn't have a really strong father figure, that's why you sought out someone so good?
I'm trying to think. That's a good question, because I think when you guys see Yahosh, because I'm going back in my dating history, I'm like, did I date everybody good? Like, and I guess I kind of did. Maybe that's why, because I was just like, I haven't seen stability of like good relationships. So I'm looking for somebody that I know. Because my biggest thing when I decided like I wanted to get married, I'm like, I want someone, I guess makes sense, that's not gonna just walk away when it gets hard. And I want like unconditional love. Somebody that's gonna love me. And like when I look at my marriage, like 16 years, we've been through some like marriage is hard. We all can agree with that. And so to do it with somebody that just like not only love and like me, but willing to stick it out and grow together. Like I see on TikTok, people said, you married for the people that married at 19 and 21, what do we regret? And I'm like, I have no regret. Or are you still in love? And I'm like, I feel like I'm like in the beginning of love sometimes, So then I'm always grateful that, and I think it's because of the partnership that I have with him.
So how your relationship with your dad influenced choosing Yahosh is you didn't have stability and consistency, so you sought that out.
Yeah, and my mom, and the same thing too. My mom never got married, and so my mom would date. My older brother. We have a different dad. She only had 2 kids, but I never saw that. But then my aunt, she got married and she had a stable relationship. So I was like, I want that. Like I want, being able to see that. So because I didn't have it, I think I was like, yeah, I wanna be in a marriage where like people are not gonna give up on each other, and that we're gonna work hard.
And Yahosh sounds like he's the consistency you never had.
Yeah, the man is. I don't want to say perfect because I know if you listen to it, his head's gonna grow a little big.
His head's gonna grow.
He's a pretty good man. Like he's so hands on with the kids. Like he's so involved and he loves so hard. And one thing that I've appreciated, like he's never called me out my name, and I think that's something that I'm like I appreciate because like he's never belittled or disrespectful, and that has been something that I'm just like, because there have been times where I'm like, I don't call him out a name, but I've got loud, and he's just like, I don't talk to you like that. So why would you talk to me like that? And then my heart breaks because I'm like, it's so true. You don't talk to me like that. So
I love that. Teresa, Britt?
I would say for me, there's a couple of things I'm like going through. One, because of my coming from 2 divorces and me seeing the damage that those divorces caused in the lives of my siblings and myself. When I got married, I wanted to marry a man who, like, where divorce wasn't on the table. For me, that was what I needed. And so when Owen and I were, dating and talking and all of that, and it became clear that was something like that for him was very important too. It's like, no, you stick it out, you work through things, you don't just leave. That was a big highlight for me. I also see elements of my father, my biological father, my stepfather in the whole process of me choosing Owen. And I'm not entirely sure how conscious I was of it, but when we were dating, he actually was living here in Utah. We actually met when he was in California. And we dated, we went on 1 or 2 dates. It was like, nope, this guy's not for me. And then, yeah. And then about 6 months later, he had called me up and was like, hey, I'm sorry I was such a jerk. The first couple of times that we had dated, like, to just hang out as friends. And so, we did. And then we continued talking. He moved to Utah And I was dating somebody else at the same time, like while we were talking, and he had been dating a couple. But over that time, we had fallen in love. And then when it came down to, well, what are we going to do? Because you live in Utah, and I'm out here, and I have a kid. Like I had a kid who I split custody with, 50-50. And Owen was like, I want you to move out here. And I'm like, well, I can't, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to my son. My son needs his dad, and it's 50-50. And there was a little bit of a fight that we had about it. But ultimately, Owen had decided that he would move to California. And I feel like that was enough for me to that really compelled me to want to marry him. And I think it's because perhaps it filled a wound from my own biological father, who had chosen his job, and because of the schedule of the Monday and Thursday and working midnight, that's what prevented him from seeing me. So it was almost like he chose to sacrifice Utah for me.
You were chosen.
Where my dad did not choose to sacrifice his job for me. Right?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And so that was like a big determining factor in me marrying him. As far as my stepdad's role in any of that, I would say, there's definitely I think the fight that we had about me coming up to Utah or not, there was probably a little bit of some red flags there that he didn't necessarily fight fair. There was some mean things that were said, that maybe once he decided to move down, I kind of, I won not a one, like a power trip, but somehow it undid it and made it so that maybe that would never happen again because he chose me. When actually, my husband's temper has been something that he has struggled with over our marriage, and he's working on. He definitely is aware of, and he's working on it. But I think that element of my stepdad was part of that whole thing too. And it's this weird, twisted, oh, but he chose me, therefore it's not going to ever happen again stuff, when no, that's some of their struggles that they have, right? That you have to kind of navigate with. Yeah. But nonetheless, we're working through all of that. It's been 16 years, and I'm really appreciative of his willingness to work through our marriage, the good and the bad, and both work at becoming better people in the process.
I love that. Britt.
Okay. Guys, I had a good dad and I have a good husband. But there are definitely...
What are the similarities?
Yeah. Similarities. I think I was attracted to Benton's capabilities, how capable he was at things. And that reminded me of my dad. And that was always really important to me. I remember my best friend was dating a boy at the same time I started dating Benton. And he locked his keys in the car. And she called us to come rescue them. And we got there, he was juggling some balls and being Mr. Silly Clown. And I was like, why aren't you trying to get in the car, dude? We have to come rescue you? You ain't no man. I was so bothered by that. But I was I didn't want to tell my friend, that's a red flag. Why isn't he jumping in and being a man and providing for you, right? And Benton did. Benton jumped in, saved the day, got the keys out, blah, blah, blah. And that was something that was really important to me because I had seen my dad as a provider and as a protector and very capable. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that's what I needed. That's what I was attracted to. And the clown, the sense of humor and everything like that wasn't as important to me as being capable was. I think his faith was also very important to me. And that's something that's very important to my dad. That's at my dad's core is his faith. And that's at Benton's core is his faith. I think another thing is my dad and I could always talk and have deep conversations. And that's how I knew Benton was the one for me too, is because we would have these really deep conversations. I felt like we could talk about anything. And we still, to this day, he's my best friend. We will talk. We'll stay up way late and just chat and just talk about anything and everything. And I love that part of our relationship. And that's really important to me. And I feel like I had that foundation with my dad, and that, leaned me towards wanting that in a husband. And I got Benton. But that said, Benton's not, he's not as involved with the kids as my dad is. My dad's still to this day, my kids will be yeah, I want to go play with Papa. They don't, there's things that my dad's better at that Benton's not. And I'm like, oh, I wish Benton would, play with the kids a little bit more than he does. And Benton gets overwhelmed with kids more than my dad does. So it's things like that. But overall, I don't know. I don't think there was any red flags that I saw from my dad that I saw in Benton. It was really important to me. My dad doesn't stand up for people as often as I wish he did. And that is something that is a very big priority to Benton. And that's something that was really important to me. Where Benton's even told my dad, there's been at least once in our marriage where Benton's been like, she's my wife and you don't talk to her that way.
Good.
And my dad's like, oh. And I think my dad actually respects Benton more because of that. Because
I love that.
Wow. It's literally so fascinating. When you start wherever you're at, if you're in a crisis and forced to learn your attachment styles and your mother-father wounds or whatever, or you just start researching it, it's crazy to see how really our childhood set the foundation for every relationship we ever pursued down the road, right? And so I appreciate everyone being willing to share their father's story. And for those who are listening, this isn't about blaming our fathers. It's about really just understanding ourselves and honoring the truth and healing forward. And wherever you are at on this journey, just know that forgiveness, boundaries, distance, closeness, whatever it is, we love you, we see you, and keep the healing. We love our dads, but it really is really interesting to see how it really does affect us. And so thanks for showing up vulnerably here, ladies. And also just being willing to go a little deeper and be like, how does my relationship with my dad actually still show up in the partner I choose? Because I think there's a lot of correlation there. We're going to wrap up this episode. We are so grateful for everyone listening. Leave your comments, your likes, your saves. If you heard something and it's like a light bulb moment, send it to the friend that came to mind. We love our community and we love hearing from you guys.
Bye.
Ciao.
Good to see you.
Thanks for joining our Brave Conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a positive review and subscribe to this podcast for more Brave Conversations. We encourage you to be brave and continue the conversation on our social media platforms everywhere at The Brave Talk Show. See you next week.
How you do the things that you do.